Back in the early 1900s, your ancestors did not stand in front of a refrigerator full of choices or open a pantry stacked with bright boxes and ready made meals. Most families still built breakfast, dinner, and supper from whatever they could afford, preserve, stretch, or stir together by hand. And by 1920, home meal work could still consume roughly 44 hours a week. And get this, a lot of the food that carried those families through ordinary life is barely remembered now. Today, we are counting down 25 forgotten meals our ancestors ate in the early 1900s. And by the end, you may realize that we lost something when food stopped teaching patience, thrift, and quiet resilience. The countdown number 25, cream toast. Simple, soft, and humble, this was the kind of dish that turned bread and a little creamy sauce into a breakfast or supper that felt warmer than its ingredients should have allowed. Your great-grandmother probably set it on the table without ceremony, the way you might set out a bowl of cereal today, and it meant the same thing. Someone was fed and the morning could begin. Number 24, hominy before boxed cereal took over the breakfast table. Older grain dishes like this still had a real place in American mornings, especially in homes keeping one foot in 19th century habits. It was coarse, filling, and honest. The kind of food that did not need to explain itself. The real genius was that it stretched a modest pantry into a proper meal without pretending otherwise. Number 23, corn fritters. Crisp at the edges, tender in the middle, and practical in the way so many old foods were. These turned corn and batter into something that looked cheerful even when money was tight. They hit the skillet with a satisfying hiss, and they smelled like something worth sitting down for. We lost something when that kind of simple skillet-side cooking stopped feeling like enough. Number 22, chicken pie. In those days, savory pies were not quaint throwbacks or restaurant novelties. They were just supper, baked to feed a table and make a home smell like it still had plenty to give. Your great-grandmother pulled one of these from the oven without thinking twice, the golden crust cracking open to let out a breath of steam that said the family could gather. Number 21, pea soup. A pot like this could simmer slowly, stretch modest ingredients, and make a family feel steadier than the pantry really was. The real genius was the way soups bought time as much as they bought fullness. A quiet, low-cost kind of generosity that the modern kitchen rarely needs to practice anymore. Number 20, veal pot pie. This was the kind of meal that reminds you early 20th century food could be both practical and unexpectedly formal. A household dinner with heft, gravy, and the sense that supper still mattered. It did not require wealth. It required patience and the knowledge that dinner was worth the effort. Pattern break 1. Here is where things get personal. These meals were not built for novelty. They were built for repetition, endurance, and the long rhythm of home labor in a world where cooking and cleaning could swallow nearly an entire work week. Translation, the kitchen was not a lifestyle choice. It was one of the central engines of family survival. If any of these meals sound like something your grandmother or great-grandmother still made, write it in the comments, because that is how memory survives. The countdown continues. Number 19, baked fish with potatoes and onions. Plain food like this once defined respectability because a balanced, orderly table mattered more than excitement, and fresh glamour was often less important than dependable nourishment. The fish would have come wrapped in paper, the potatoes from a root cellar, and none of that made the meal less dignified. Number 18, poached eggs on toast with ham. Before processed breakfast culture pushed mornings towards cereal and speed, breakfast could still be hearty, savory, and built to carry someone through the real physical work. Your great-grandfather sat down to something like this before a day in a mill or on a farm, and he called it breakfast, and it held him. Number 17, Royce cakes with maple syrup. These belong to that older griddle cake world of hot breakfasts, cast iron pans, and mornings that began with smoke, steam, and a little sweetness before the day turned hard. They were not exotic and they were not trendy, just what the pan made when flour and rice came together. Number 16, baked bean salad beans once appeared naturally at supper tables. Not as trendy protein or picnic nostalgia, but as ordinary food that people trusted. And get this, the idea of building a salad around baked beans would have surprised no one in those years. It was logical, affordable, and quietly satisfying. Number 15, deviled eggs. Today they feel ceremonial, reserved for Easter tables and potluck spreads. But in the early 1900s, they could sit calmly in a supper menu, unannounced and undecorated. Proof that yesterday's familiar food often becomes tomorrow's special occasion dish. Number 14. Potato cakes. Your great-grandmother knew this without needing a cookbook from a celebrity chef. Leftover potatoes were not scraps. They were tomorrow's meal, browned in a pan and given a second life with almost no waste. The smell of potato cakes frying in the morning was the smell of a household that knew how to take care of itself. Number 13. Cream of potato soup. Soft, filling, and exactly the sort of dish that belonged to an age of pantry thrift and stovetop patience. There was no blender, no stock cube, and no recipe card needed. Just potatoes, cream, heat, and time, and the quiet intelligence to know that was enough. Number 12. Finnan Haddie with popovers. Preserved fish at breakfast may sound strange now, but it made sense in a country still shaped by older foodways and regional trade. The smoky, salt-tinged smell of Finnan Haddie on a morning stove would have been completely ordinary in a New England household in 1905. We lost something when that kind of regional breakfast identity quietly disappeared. Number 11. Clam chowder with brown bread. But here is where it gets truly nostalgic. Meals like this were once not heritage cuisine. They were just what people ate, regionally rooted and deeply normal before convenience flattened so much of American taste. Number 10. Hamburger steak. Before the hamburger became a symbol of fast food and paper wrappers, it appeared as a plated luncheon dish. Modest but respectable, served with a side and eaten with a fork. Your great-grandparents would have known it as a proper, if simple, sit-down meal. Number 9. Pork and parsnip stew. Root vegetables, long simmering, and practical cuts of meat form the backbone of countless cold weather tables. The parsnip, sweet, earthy, and forgiving in a pot, was once as common as the carrot. Now it is almost a specialty item, proof of how quietly a staple can disappear. Number 8. Creamed codfish, salt-cured and preserved seafood, belong to a kitchen economy shaped by storage limits and habits formed before year-round abundance felt normal. The real genius was the way preservation turned a sparse pantry into something that still tasted like a meal. Number 7. Frizzled beef on cream toast, pantry food, comfort food, and make-do food all at once, carrying the kind of plain domestic intelligence that modern kitchens often hide behind packaging. Thin strips of dry beef, crisped in butter and folded into cream sauce over toast, said the household had not given up, even on a Wednesday with little left in the larder. Number 6. Split pea soup with croutons. Dried legumes mattered because they were affordable, storable, and dependable. The sort of ingredients that stood by a family when fresh plenty did not. A pot of split pea soup could stretch a ham bone into something that fed a table twice over, and the croutons on top were often yesterday's bread, fried in yesterday's fat, wasting nothing. Pattern break 2. Here is the larger truth. By the 1920s, processed cereals, branded goods, and a growing culture of convenience were changing how Americans ate, and many older dishes began to feel old-fashioned rather than essential. We lost something when progress started to mean less time at the stove and less memory in the recipe box. Like this video and subscribe if you want more lost American memories, because food history is really family history wearing an apron. The final 5, number 5. Poor man's pudding. Even the name tells you what mattered. Thrift without self-pity, sweetness without extravagance, and the stubborn refusal to let a plain table become a joyless one. This was dessert made from what the pantry still had: bread, milk, a little sugar, and the determination that supper should end on something warm. Number 4. Cottage pudding. It once sat naturally in home menus, quiet and unassuming, built from a simple sponge and topped with a warm sauce. But here's where it gets truly poignant. Your great-grandmother made this for ordinary Tuesday nights, not just company. Number 3. Cabinet pudding. And get this? Dishes with names like this once lived right inside ordinary American menu culture. Proof that the home table could still carry a touch of ceremony without becoming luxurious. Built from layers of bread, raisins, and custard, it asks for patience and a steady oven. 2 things early 1900s kitchens always had. Number 2. Baked custard eggs, milk, gentle heat, and patience. That was enough. Your grandmother knew this without needing 20. Ingredients, 3 appliances, and a package promising instant comfort. The custard went into the oven while supper was still on the stove, and it came out trembling and golden, the simplest kind of sweetness a kitchen could offer. Number 1. Gingerbread. Not the cartoon version, not the holiday theme, but the real everyday bake that could sit on a family table any afternoon in October or March or June. It filled the kitchen with spice and warmth, and it meant the same thing every time. That simple things still mattered, and that someone in that house knew how to make them count. What makes this list powerful is not just that these meals existed, it is that they belong to a household world where people cooked more, wasted less, and slowly watched convenience replace memory one product at a time. The real genius was never just in the recipes, it was in the hands that repeated them. The women and families who fed people through ordinary weekdays and changing seasons when the kitchen still demanded discipline, endurance, and care. So the next time you make something from scratch, remember this: you are not just cooking, you are stepping for a moment into the echo of farmhouse kitchens, tenement stoves, and breakfasts that helped build the modern world before the modern world forgot them. Hit subscribe for more lost American memories and forgotten wisdom.